The village now lived in peace and happiness, thanks to Ethan's bravery and Lyra's wise leadership. Ethan became an honored member of the community, respected and loved by everyone. Villagers often gathered around him, eager to learn more about Earth and share their own stories. Lyra and Ethan spent much time together, always discussing new ways to improve their people's lives. They built schools to teach villagers about both worlds, created gardens for growing food, and even established a system of communication between neighboring villages to maintain peace and understanding. One sunny day, messengers arrived from neighboring kingdoms, inviting Ethan and Lyra to a gathering. They were interested in learning how Ethan and Lyra had brought peace and harmony to their community. Ethan felt proud, knowing their actions could inspire others. Ethan and Lyra traveled together to the meeting. They spoke openly about their journey, Ethan describing how he had found Lyra injured and helpless, and how trust had grown between them despite challenges. Lyra admitted her earlier mistakes and spoke about the strength of trust and forgiveness. Leaders from other villages listened carefully, impressed by Ethan and Lyra's story. They asked many questions, wanting advice on building similar peaceful communities. Ethan and Lyra answered honestly, encouraging kindness, patience, and understanding as the foundation of peace. After the meeting, leaders returned to their villages, determined to follow Ethan and Lyra's example. Soon, news came of more communities, uniting peacefully, working together to improve their worlds. Ethan felt hopeful, knowing their actions were truly changing lives. Back home, Ethan continued helping villagers. He showed them new farming methods, taught children to build shelters, and even created a library filled with stories from Earth and their own world. Ethan was happy, seeing clearly the positive changes he had inspired. One evening, as Ethan sat quietly watching villagers celebrate around a warm fire, Lyra approached him gently. She sat beside him, looking thoughtful. "Ethan," she said softly, "you've done so much for my people. I can never truly thank you enough." "You don't have to thank me," Ethan replied warmly. "Being here, helping your people, it has made me truly happy." Lyra smiled warmly, feeling deeply grateful. They sat quietly together, watching the joyful villagers dance and laugh under the stars. Ethan realized clearly how much he had grown to love this new world and its people. Months passed, and Ethan continued his peaceful life, helping villagers and strengthening bonds between different communities. His friendship with Lyra grew stronger each day, built firmly on trust, respect, and shared dreams. One bright morning, villagers prepared a special celebration in Ethan's honor. They decorated the village with colorful flowers, ribbons, and lights. Ethan felt touched by their kindness, knowing how deeply they appreciated him. During the celebration, Lyra stood before the gathered villagers, speaking warmly about Ethan's bravery, kindness, and dedication. Everyone cheered loudly, clearly agreeing with her words. Ethan felt deeply moved, smiling gratefully at Lyra and the villagers. Later, Ethan addressed the villagers, thanking them sincerely for their kindness and acceptance. He encouraged them to continue building peace and understanding, reminding everyone of the strength found in unity and friendship. As evening came, Ethan and Lyra walked quietly together through the village. Ethan felt calm and happy, proud of the peace they had created together. Lyra spoke gently, sharing her thoughts. "Openly, Ethan," she began, "you've changed my life and the lives of everyone here. You taught me kindness and trust, and you taught me courage and understanding." Ethan replied warmly. They smiled at each other, feeling deeply connected by their shared experiences and trust. Ethan knew he had found a true friend in Lyra, someone he could always rely on. As the days passed, Ethan and Lyra continued leading their community towards greater harmony and prosperity. Their story became famous, inspiring many to follow their example of trust, kindness, and understanding. One peaceful evening, as Ethan and Lyra stood together watching the sunset, Ethan felt truly content. He knew clearly his journey had been difficult, filled with challenges and dangers. Yet, Every step had led to this moment of peace, friendship, and hope. Lyra turned to Ethan, smiling gently. "You've brought us a future we could never have." "Imagine," she said softly. "We built this future together," Ethan replied warmly, his voice calm and certain. Standing together, Ethan and Lyra watched as the sun set slowly, casting warm golden light over their peaceful village. Around them, villagers laughed and spoke gently, enjoying the harmony and peace Ethan and Lyra had created. Ethan knew clearly his actions had mattered deeply, bringing hope and peace to an entire world. He felt proud, happy, and grateful, knowing he had truly made a difference. Life in the village became peaceful again, and Ethan felt happy and accepted by everyone. He spent much time helping villagers and teaching them things from Earth, like simple farming techniques and how to build stronger shelters. Lyra visited, often pleased to see Ethan and her people working closely together. As the days passed, Ethan and Lyra became even better friends. They enjoyed long talks and walks through the village, discussing their dreams for a peaceful future between their worlds. Ethan admired Lyra's kindness and strong leadership. Lyra respected Ethan's bravery and wisdom deeply. One sunny morning, while Ethan was working with villagers, Lyra received troubling news. Scouts reported a group of rebels from a nearby village was planning an attack. These rebels opposed peace with humans and wanted Lyra removed from power. Lyra felt worried but determined to protect her village and Ethan. She quickly gathered her trusted advisors, including Ethan, to discuss how to protect their home. Ethan listened carefully, understanding the danger clearly. He promised to help in any way he could. Together, they made a careful plan to defend their village peacefully, hoping to avoid fighting if possible. Ethan helped villagers strengthen defenses quietly, setting up barriers and safe shelters. Everyone worked together quickly, knowing the rebels might come soon. Ethan felt proud seeing their unity and bravery. Late one evening, villagers heard noises nearby, signaling the rebels were close. Ethan stood near Lyra, watching carefully. He knew protecting her was most important. Lyra stood calm and strong, prepared to face the threat. Soon, a group of rebels entered the village, carrying torches and weapons, looking angry and determined. Ethan stepped forward calmly, speaking clearly and gently. He explained they only wanted peace and understanding. But the rebel leader, a tall and fierce alien named Caden, refused to listen. He argued strongly, accusing Ethan of tricking Lyra and her people. Lyra stepped beside Ethan, speaking confidently and firmly. She explained again about Ethan's kindness, bravery, and the peace he brought to their village. She asked the rebels to give Ethan a chance and see the good he had done. Most rebels listened thoughtfully, unsure of their next step. But Caden stayed angry, shouting loudly and preparing to attack. He charged forward suddenly, aiming at Lyra. With his weapon, without hesitation, Ethan moved quickly, stepping in front of Lyra to protect her. He blocked Caden's attack bravely, struggling to keep them both safe. The villagers, seeing Ethan's courage, quickly came forward to help, surrounding Caden and the remaining rebels. Realizing they were outnumbered and seeing Ethan's courage clearly, the rebels surrendered. They laid down their weapons quietly, finally understanding Ethan's true nature and kindness. Caden, still, angry but defeated, watched silently as his group accepted peace. After ensuring everyone's safety, Ethan turned to Lyra, checking she was unharmed. She looked deeply grateful and touched by his bravery. She thanked Ethan warmly, feeling closer to him than ever before. In the days following, news of Ethan's bravery spread quickly, bringing respect and trust from villagers and rebels alike. Many former rebels visited the village, openly apologizing and asking Ethan's forgiveness. Ethan accepted their apologies gently, encouraging everyone to work together for a peaceful future. Lyra felt proud and relieved, seeing unity and peace finally spreading across her kingdom. She knew Ethan's bravery had changed hearts and minds, bringing hope and understanding to her people. One evening, Ethan and Lyra walked slowly through the village, discussing the recent events. Lyra spoke warmly, thanking Ethan sincerely for his courage and kindness. Ethan smiled, feeling proud of the peaceful changes they had created together. "I couldn't have done this without you," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. "We did it together," Ethan replied, smiling warmly. "Peace is built on understanding and trust. We proved that." Lyra nodded, feeling deeply happy and hopeful. They walked quietly, enjoying each other's company and the peaceful evening around them. Villagers greeted them warmly, grateful for Ethan's courage and kindness. As night fell, Ethan and Lyra stood quietly near the village center, watching stars gently brighten the dark sky. They spoke softly about dreams for the future, hopeful their worlds could always share peace and friendship. Ethan felt proud, knowing clearly his actions had truly mattered. Lyra looked thoughtfully at Ethan, realizing how important he had become to her and her people. She felt deeply thankful, knowing his bravery and kindness had united their worlds. Standing together beneath the stars, they felt hopeful and ready to face any challenges ahead, confident in their friendship and shared courage. Days passed slowly in Ethan's hidden shelter deep in the forest. He spent much of his time thinking about Princess Lyra and their last conversation. Each day, he waited patiently, hoping to see her again, knowing she would do what was right. Meanwhile, Lyra struggled with her advisors back at the palace. They continued warning her about trusting Ethan, but now she felt stronger and more confident. She listened patiently to their worries, but kept Ethan's kindness firmly in her heart. One afternoon, Lyra visited Ethan again. She arrived quietly, guarded by Alex, her loyal advisor. Ethan welcomed her warmly, relieved to see her safe and determined. "How are you?" Lyra asked, her voice gentle. "Better now," Ethan replied honestly, smiling. "I knew you'd return." Lyra felt comforted by Ethan's trust. She explained her plan to correct her earlier mistake. It would be difficult, but she felt determined. Ethan listened carefully, agreeing with her decision. Lyra planned to gather her people in the main square. She would speak honestly about Ethan, about his courage and kindness. She would explain clearly how she had misunderstood him and ask her people to trust her decision. The next day, Lyra prepared carefully. She felt nervous, but knew she was doing the right thing. As she walked to the main square, she saw her people gathered, curious and waiting. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, facing the large crowd. Speaking calmly and clearly, Lyra told her story. She explained how Ethan had saved her after the crash, how he had carried her safely for miles without harm. She spoke honestly about her fears, her mistake, and how Ethan had proven himself trustworthy. The crowd listened closely, surprised by her honesty. Many seemed uncertain but thoughtful. Lyra ended her speech by asking her people to give Ethan a chance, explaining that understanding and trust could bring peace and strength to their kingdom. After her speech, Lyra felt relieved but also anxious, waiting for their reactions. Slowly, the crowd began whispering, discussing among themselves. Many seemed thoughtful, nodding gently in agreement. Lyra knew it would take time, but she felt hopeful seeing their open minds. Later, Lyra returned to Ethan's hidden shelter. She explained what had happened. Ethan listened quietly, impressed by her courage. He thanked her sincerely for taking such a risk for him. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, people began visiting Ethan secretly. They spoke with him, asked questions, and listened to his stories about Earth. Ethan answered honestly and kindly, winning their trust with his gentle words and calm demeanor. Soon, more villagers began accepting Ethan, seeing him as kind and wise. They invited him to their homes, shared meals, and exchanged stories. Ethan felt happy, grateful for the kindness and acceptance he received. Lyra visited Ethan often, pleased to see her people accepting him. Each meeting strengthened their friendship and trust. Ethan taught Lyra about humanity's compassion and bravery, and she shared her people's wisdom and knowledge. One evening, during a quiet conversation, Lyra spoke honestly about her feelings of guilt. "I still regret what I ordered," she admitted softly. Ethan reassured her warmly, We all make mistakes, Princess. What's important is that you corrected yours. Lyra felt comforted by his understanding. They continued talking openly, growing closer, and more trusting each day. However, not everyone agreed with Lyra's decision. A small group of her advisors secretly planned against her, believing Ethan was still dangerous. They spread false rumors among the villagers, causing confusion and worry. Ethan soon noticed some villagers becoming distant again, avoiding him and looking suspicious. He worried, sensing something was wrong. He spoke with Lyra about his concerns, and she agreed to investigate. Lyra quickly discovered the secret plan against Ethan. Feeling deeply troubled, she confronted her advisors firmly. She explained again clearly about Ethan's goodness and demanded their honesty and trust. Despite her efforts, tensions remained. Lyra knew she needed to show her people Ethan's true worth through action, not just words. Together, she and Ethan planned a project to help the entire village. They worked side by side, repairing damaged homes, improving village pathways, and planting new gardens. Seeing Ethan's hard work and genuine kindness, villagers began trusting him again. They joined the efforts enthusiastically, seeing clearly how Ethan truly cared for their being at the end of the project. The village looked beautiful and felt peaceful again. Ethan stood beside Lyra proudly, grateful for her trust and friendship. The villagers thanked Ethan openly, now fully accepting and respecting him. That evening, Lyra and Ethan sat together quietly, watching their peaceful village. Lyra smiled gently, feeling deeply grateful for Ethan's patience and kindness. Ethan felt proud and hopeful, knowing they had overcome misunderstanding and fear together. Their friendship had grown stronger, built firmly on trust, understanding, and kindness. Ethan sat quietly in the small, dark room. Time passed slowly, and he felt lost. He had tried to help Princess Lyra, yet she had ordered him to be killed. He did not understand why she had done this. His mind raced with confusion, sadness, and disbelief. Meanwhile, in her chambers, Lyra sat alone, feeling deeply troubled. She kept remembering Ethan's face, filled with kindness and bravery, even when he faced danger. Her heart felt heavy with doubt and regret. She questioned her decision again and again, wondering if she had acted wrongly. Her advisors came to speak with her, reminding her of stories about humans being dangerous and unpredictable. They warned her she had done the right thing. Lyra listened, quietly but felt uncertain. Her memories of Ethan were different. She remembered how he had carried her carefully, always gentle and protective. Late at night, unable to sleep, Lyra walked quietly to the place where Ethan was being held. Guards stood nearby, looking surprised to see her. She ordered them to open the door and stepped inside slowly. Ethan looked up, surprised but hopeful. She sat opposite him quietly. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Ethan broke the silence softly, saying, "I only wanted to help you." Lyra studied his face closely. She saw honesty and kindness in his eyes. Feeling unsure, she asked slowly, "Why did you save me?" "Because it was the right thing to do," Ethan replied simply, his voice calm but strong. Lyra felt her heart soften. Hearing those words, she realized she had misunderstood him. Ethan was different from what she had been told about humans. He was kind and brave, willing to risk himself for someone he didn't even know. "I was afraid," Lyra admitted quietly. "Afraid of what you might do, afraid because you are different." Ethan nodded gently, understanding her fear. "I understand," he said softly. "But I promise you, I would never hurt you or your people." Lyra sat silently, deep in thought. After a while, she stood up, telling Ethan quietly, "I need to think." She left the room slowly, her mind filled with confusion and guilt. Returning to her chambers, she stayed awake all night, thinking carefully. By morning, Lyra knew she had. To correct her mistake. At dawn, she called her trusted advisor Alex to meet with her privately. Lyra explained her decision carefully, asking Alex to secretly arrange Ethan's safety. She knew openly changing her order could be dangerous, But she felt determined to save Ethan. Alex understood Lyra's worries but agreed to help. Together, they made a plan. Ethan would be moved quietly to a hidden place far from the palace. There, he would be safe while Lyra found a way to correct her mistake publicly. That evening, guards quietly took Ethan from his cell. At first, he felt afraid, unsure what was happening. But soon, he realized he was being moved carefully, not roughly. They took him far from the palace, deep into the forest, to a secret location hidden behind thick trees and bush. When he arrived, Ethan was greeted by Alex, who explained everything. Ethan felt relief hearing Lyra's change of heart. He thanked Alex sincerely, grateful to be safe again. Days passed quietly in the hidden place. Ethan felt calm, waiting patiently. He wondered if Lyra would come to visit him again. Finally, one evening, she arrived. She looked tired but determined, her face showing deep concern. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice filled with regret. "I made a terrible mistake. I was scared, but you showed only kindness." Ethan smiled gently, replying, "I understand, Princess." Lyra sat beside Ethan, speaking openly about her people and their fears of humans. Ethan listened carefully, sharing stories of humanity's goodness and compassion. Slowly, trust grew between them. Lyra realized Ethan was not just brave, but wise and understanding. They spoke for hours, learning about each other's worlds. Ethan described Earth's beauty and people's kindness. Lyra spoke about her people's fears and hopes. She understood more clearly now that they could learn much from each other. Before leaving, Lyra promised Ethan she would find a way to fix the misunderstanding publicly. She felt stronger now, knowing clearly what she must do. Ethan trusted her completely, knowing she was honest and good at heart. Ethan watched Lyra leave, feeling hopeful. He knew challenges were ahead, but he trusted Lyra's courage and goodness. Together, they had started building understanding between their two worlds. Ethan knew, despite difficulties, kindness and trust could overcome fear and misunderstanding. The morning came quietly, bringing soft light into the cave. Ethan woke slowly, feeling stiff and sore from the hard ground. Sitting up, he looked over to the alien woman. She was awake, watching him quietly. Her face seemed less worried now, and Ethan thought she looked stronger. Ethan stretched and smiled gently at her. She smiled back softly, making Ethan feel encouraged. He offered her water and a little food. Supplies were almost gone, but he knew she needed strength. She drank slowly, eyes thoughtful, studying Ethan closely as he packed their belongings. After helping her settle comfortably, Ethan carefully lifted her again, holding her securely. He walked steadily, leaving the safety of the cave behind. The forest felt calm and fresh. Birds sang gently, and sunlight filtered through the leaves. Ethan felt hopeful despite the challenges ahead. As they traveled, Ethan talked softly, hoping she would understand some of his words. He described Earth, his home, speaking about green fields, oceans, and cities filled with people. She listened carefully, clearly fascinated even though she didn't understand fully. The path soon became steep and rocky, leading uphill. Ethan's muscles strained as he climbed, but he pushed forward, determined. Near midday, they reached the top of the hill. Looking down, Ethan saw a valley below filled with bright colors, strange plants, and flowers, unlike anything he had seen before. It was beautiful but unknown. He moved carefully down into the valley. Soon, Ethan saw something unexpected, a trail that looked clearly used. He felt excitement. It meant people might be near. Following the path, Ethan felt more hopeful. The alien woman also noticed the trail, her eyes widening in curiosity and slight fear. The trail led them towards a small village. Ethan stopped, surprised by what he saw. Houses were made of strange, colorful materials, and tall, slender beings moved gracefully through the streets. They looked similar to the alien woman he carried, but seemed cautious, whispering and pointing at him nervously. Ethan approached carefully, trying to look friendly. But suddenly, Guards appeared, tall and strong-looking, holding long staffs. They moved quickly, surrounding Ethan and the woman. Ethan stopped, holding her protectively, unsure of their intentions. One guard stepped forward, speaking sharply in a language Ethan couldn't understand. The woman replied calmly, clearly explaining something. Ethan noticed the guard seemed respectful towards her, bowing slightly when she spoke. But then the guards looked suspiciously at Ethan again, clearly uncertain about him. One guard reached for the woman, gently helping her from Ethan's arms. Ethan reluctantly let go, feeling suddenly alone and vulnerable. Another guard took hold of Ethan roughly, pushing him forward. He was confused and worried. They walked into the village. The alien woman carried carefully ahead of Ethan. Ethan saw villagers gathering, staring at him with wide eyes, whispering nervously. Ethan tried to remain calm, hoping the woman would explain clearly that he had saved her, had only wanted to help. Eventually, they arrived at a large, elegant building. Inside, Ethan was pushed into a small room, locked inside without any explanation. He sat down heavily, feeling tired, confused, and betrayed. He wondered what would happen next. Hours passed slowly. Ethan felt worried and alone. Finally, the door opened, and guards brought him to a large hall filled with many aliens seated quietly. At the far end, the woman he had carried sat in a high chair, now dressed in fine clothing and looking like a leader. Ethan felt relief seeing her safe and strong. He smiled slightly, hoping she would understand and help him. But when her eyes met his, they seemed cold and distant. She spoke briefly to those around her, her voice firm and commanding. A translator stepped forward, addressing Ethan clearly. "Princess Lyra has declared that you will be executed." Ethan stared in disbelief, shocked by her words. He had risked everything to save her. He searched her face desperately for a sign of kindness or understanding, but she looked away, her expression unreadable. Guards grabbed Ethan roughly, dragging him from the hall. He struggled, pleading to be heard, to explain his actions. But they ignored his protests, locking him again in the small room. Ethan sat alone, feeling hurt and confused. He had only wanted to help Lyra. Why had she ordered his death? He thought carefully, hoping she would reconsider. He believed deep down she would realize her mistake and show kindness again. But as Ethan waited in the darkness, his hope faded. He worried he had made a grave mistake, trusting someone so different from himself. Yet, despite everything, Ethan refused to lose faith completely. He hoped that somehow, kindness would find a way back into Lyra's heart. When the sun rose the next morning, Ethan felt tired but determined. He looked over at the alien woman. She had stayed awake all night, quietly watching him. Her green eyes still seemed wary and unsure, but Ethan gave her a gentle smile, hoping she would trust him soon. After giving her more water and sharing some food, Ethan lifted her carefully once more. She did not protest this time, simply letting him carry her. He noticed that her body relaxed slightly in his arms. Ethan felt relieved. Maybe she was beginning to understand he meant no harm. The journey became harder as the day grew hotter. Ethan walked steadily across a wide, empty plain covered with tall, yellow grass. He had to take breaks often, sitting in the shade of small trees or beside large rocks. Each time they stopped, he checked if the alien woman needed anything. She remained quiet but accepted water gratefully. Ethan wished he could talk with her, to know what she was thinking. By the afternoon, they reached a large river. It flowed fast and looked deep. Ethan knew crossing would be dangerous. He set the woman down carefully on the grass beside the riverbank. He then searched along the river, looking for a shallow place to cross. Finally, he found a spot where the water looked calmer, flowing around large stones. Returning to the woman, he picked her up again, this time holding her even tighter. Ethan stepped slowly into the cold water. He moved carefully, testing each step before placing his weight down. The alien woman held on to him tighter, clearly afraid but staying brave. Halfway across, Ethan slipped slightly on a smooth stone. Water splashed around them. Ethan quickly regained his balance, breathing heavily. The alien woman looked at him, her eyes wide with fear but also something new gratitude. Ethan reassured her with a calm smile and continued crossing the river. Finally, they reached the other side safely. Ethan placed her gently on the ground and sat beside her, breathing deeply. He felt exhausted but relieved. Looking at the woman, he saw she seemed calmer now. Her eyes softened as she watched him, seeming to understand how hard he worked to keep her safe. They rested for a short while, regaining their strength. Ethan checked his supplies. Food and water were running low, which worried him. They needed to find help soon, or survival would become difficult. Continuing their journey, Ethan soon entered a thick forest again. This time, the trees were tall and old, their branches forming a thick roof above. It was darker and cooler here. Ethan moved cautiously, stepping over fallen branches and twisted roots. Suddenly, he heard a noise behind him. Turning quickly, Ethan saw several small creatures, their eyes glowing in the dim forest. They were furry but looked fierce and curious. The creatures moved closer, slowly circling Ethan and the alien woman. Ethan's heart raced. He had no weapon, nothing to protect them except his courage. He held the alien woman tightly and slowly moved backward, never taking his eyes off the creatures. They hissed and moved forward, looking ready to attack. Thinking quickly, Ethan grabbed a thick branch from the ground. He swung it in front of him, shouting loudly. The creatures stopped, looking startled by his bold actions. After a tense moment, they slowly backed away, disappearing into the shadows of the forest. Ethan let out a deep breath, feeling relieved. He turned to check the alien woman. She was breathing fast, clearly shaken but unharmed. Ethan gently squeezed her shoulder, trying to comfort her without words. She looked up at him gratefully, her eyes showing clear appreciation for his bravery. The day wore on, and they moved slowly through the dense forest. Ethan felt tired, his muscles aching from carrying her for so long. Yet he knew he could not stop. They needed shelter before nightfall. Finally, Ethan found a small cave hidden behind thick bush. Carefully, he carried the woman inside. It was cool and quiet, offering protection from the weather and any other threats. He set her down gently, using his jacket as a cushion beneath her. Ethan gathered some branches and leaves to create a simple bed for himself nearby. He ate very little, giving most of the remaining food and water to the woman. She took them quietly, watching him closely. For the first time, Ethan saw a faint smile cross her face. It gave him strength, making all his efforts feel worthwhile. As darkness filled the cave, Ethan lay down near the entrance, ready to protect her at any moment. Despite his tiredness, Ethan felt a new sense of purpose. He was determined to keep her safe, no matter how difficult their journey became. Ethan woke slowly, his head hurting badly. He blinked his eyes and tried to focus. Everything around him looked strange. He could smell smoke and hear small fires burning. Slowly, Ethan remembered. He had been aboard a spaceship heading to a distant planet, but something went terribly wrong. He recalled a loud explosion, flashing lights, and then darkness. He stood carefully, checking if his legs still worked. Luckily, he felt strong enough. Looking around, he saw broken pieces of his spaceship scattered everywhere. The ground felt soft, covered in grass and small bush. Ethan saw tall trees in every direction. He realized he had landed on an unknown planet, and it felt lonely and quiet. Taking a deep breath, Ethan began searching the wreckage for supplies. He found some food, water, and a small toolkit. The sky looked blue, but the air felt different, heavier than Earth's. After packing what he could carry, Ethan decided to explore and find help. Staying in one place would do him no good. Ethan walked carefully through thick bush, stepping over rocks and roots. The forest was dense, filled with strange plants he had never seen. He heard noises around him, the rustling of leaves, but saw no animals. As he walked further, the forest grew darker, the tall trees blocking out most of the sun. After several hours, Ethan reached an open clearing. He stopped in surprise. There lay another crashed ship, larger and different from his own. It looked smooth and elegant, clearly built by advanced beings. Curious, Ethan moved closer to investigate. Entering the broken ship, Ethan saw strange lights flickering inside. Everything looked very advanced, but damaged badly from the crash. Carefully, he stepped deeper inside. At the back of the ship, he found a room glowing softly with a greenish light. In the middle of the room, he saw something astonishing. There lay an alien woman, perfectly still. She had skin pale blue, smooth like marble, and long shining hair the color of silver. Her eyes were closed, and she seemed trapped in some type of clear capsule, frozen and unable to move. Ethan saw symbols blinking on the capsule, and he wondered if she was alive or dead. Unsure what to do, Ethan studied the capsule closely. He pressed a button, and the capsule hissed gently, slowly opening. The alien woman gasped and opened her eyes wide. Her eyes were bright green, large, and very beautiful, but filled with fear and confusion. "Who are you?" Ethan asked gently, trying not to frighten her further. She didn't answer, only stared at him suspiciously, clearly not understanding his language. Ethan tried gestures, pointing at himself and saying his name. She watched closely, but still didn't speak. Ethan realized she probably didn't trust him. Feeling concerned, Ethan pointed outside, hoping to show her they needed to leave. The woman tried moving, but quickly found she could not walk or even stand. Her legs seemed frozen and unresponsive. Ethan saw worry fill her eyes, and he knew he had to help her. Without hesitation, Ethan carefully picked her up. She was surprisingly light, and Ethan held her gently. The alien woman stiffened, clearly unhappy being carried by a stranger. Ethan tried to smile reassuringly, hoping she would understand he meant no harm. He carried her slowly out of the ship. Outside, Ethan looked around carefully, choosing the best direction to travel. He had no idea how far help might be, but he knew staying put wasn't safe. Holding the immobilized woman close, Ethan began his journey, determined to find a safe place. The path was difficult, filled with sharp rocks and tangled bush. Ethan walked steadily, careful not to stumble or drop the alien woman. She remained silent, though Ethan felt her body tense and nervous. He hoped she would soon trust him, understanding he only wanted to help Dot as night began to fall. Ethan found a sheltered spot under large trees. He set her down gently, giving her water from his supplies. She drank carefully, still watching him closely. Ethan knew communication would be difficult, but he felt hopeful. He needed her trust if they were both going to survive. They sat silently together as the night darkened. Strange noises surrounded them, making Ethan alert and watchful. He looked at the alien woman, noticing how fragile yet strong she seemed. Ethan felt determined, promising himself he would keep her safe, no matter what dangers they faced ahead.